Hello guys, it's Griffin Bookworm, and today I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind quite frequently and that I've wondered about and pondered about while reading and doing some random online surfing. And that is being a polymath, a Renaissance man. Being a Renaissance man is something that has happened from decades to even centuries, and it is something that's been more common, I think, in like the from the medieval times to the late 18th century, I'd say, but has become more and more uncommon and rare in today's modern society. Since being a polymath or Renaissance man basically means that you have a good amount of understanding and knowledge on various topics, and sometimes these are not just ground level knowledge, but profound, deep going knowledge on almost every subject. And while I agree that it is impossible for having such deep knowledge nowadays, or not, I'd say it's more likely unpractical in today's world. But I still find the idea very interesting. One of the most famous polymaths in the history of the world was Leonardo da Vinci back in Italy. And I find his works to be quite stunning and impressive, and hence why I want to read the book as well, called, I think it's Da Vinci by Walter Isaac. He's very, or Isaac Walter or something like that. It's a quite famous biographer of people like these. He wrote a biography on Leonardo da Vinci, on Einstein, and I think also on one of the founding fathers. Excuse me for my poor lack of culture right there. But yeah, I think being a Renaissance man in terms of the book community, what this video is about, is a very valuable thing to pursue. In the sense that not that you're going to consume every book that you can, because that is certainly impossible. Again, I don't know who you guys are out there, so I'm not sure at this point. If you're an AI, then maybe you can pull this off. I think reading diverse amount of books is a very rich experience, a very enlightening experience. I sound a bit pseudo-intellectual right there, but it's true, right? Isn't it? It's very logical as well. Like, the more you consume from different genres, the more you brighten your perspective on things. So I think if you read, like, if you love reading, say, novels, it's good from time to time to maybe delve into a bit of nonfiction, and even nonfiction, that's actually where the diversity starts even more. When you get into nonfiction, it's good to explore more than just one type of nonfiction. Like, for me, I'm a person that loves reading popular science, so in nonfiction, that's the genre I usually go for, popular science. But I think from time to time that it's good to read say things like biographies, and not just biographies in my case of just scientists, but biographies of other people in general. Like, let's say someone who survived the slave trade, or someone who's been a really important influence in politics, or things like finances, like capitalism, things like that. And especially if it's something that you're not very knowledgeable about, I think it's more important to ask more questions in that area. Because when you're good at something, or when you're very knowledgeable about something, that's great, that's beautiful, and you shouldn't stop asking questions in that area as well. You should keep deepening your knowledge. But I think the true diversity of a polymath or Renaissance man is when you start asking questions about other things of which you're not very knowledgeable about, things that you'd be curious about learning. Say, let's say you don't know much about US history. In my case, I don't know much about US history, but I'm curious to learn more about it. So I started looking up books of which I can use to polish my knowledge on US history, or not even polish, to gain more knowledge, since I'm not very well informed on that topic. It doesn't have to be a textbook thing, unless you're a very rigorous and serious learner that wants to take everything literally. Then of course you're going to buy like a textbook. But it can be just a popular like history book, or just something of the life, but something to give you a brief overview of a certain topic. It's a very well great move that innovative people and even CEOs of big companies use to gather knowledge about different areas and aspects of our daily lives. And things like this will make you a very well rounded individual and you'd stand out at parties. You'd be that person that talks in that very pseudo intellectual tone, like using large vocabulary, even though you might not even know what the words mean, but it will make you a very interesting person. That's my point. So you won't be the quiet person at every conversation except for that one topic. Like, you won't be the quiet person where they're talking about politics, economics, health issues, and then when they talk about sports, you suddenly know everything about sports. Like, oh, I know Neymar is a freaking douchebag, or oh, I know that Messi is a great soccer player except for when he's shooting penalties, something of the like. Just stand out in one topic. You will stand out various topics, and I think books are a wonderful medium to achieve this goal, to have at least a ground knowledge of as many topics as you can. And despite that, defying the definition of the word polymath or renaissance man, I think it's as close that we can get in the modern society to being practical in the pursuit of this thing, whatever it is, if it's even a thing, being a polymath, as close as we can get to it while being still practical, because you can kind of like delve deep into as much things as you can, but I think at the end you'd lose your initial frame and you'd lose sight of what matters in the big picture. It's something that I've been going on and on about and thinking and giving more and more thoughts recently, and I think it's something really important, and it's something that shaped me as a reader as well, that I don't read just what I know about, but I try to pursue as many things as I can. Even in the fiction genre, I usually like to read my good old-fashioned crime thriller or horror or sci-fi. But recently, I started hearing more and more about fantasy, something that I'm not particularly a big fan of, but I'll say why not? Like, one of the popular releases recently, I think of this year as well, is a book called Children of Blood and Bones, a very popular fantasy novel out there, of which I had no interest in reading at first, but more and more I read about it, more and more I saw reviews, it started seeming more and more interesting, and I'm curious about this genre, and especially when jumping into the Dark Tower, you're jumping into like full-blown fantasy. Like, there are people with owls as heads and scorpion tails. It's crazy. So I think that kind of opened the door for me to explore more and more genres, and I think that's a very wonderful thing. Do not just stick into your comfort zone. Like, let's say you like reading about the sea, you like reading about fairy tales involving the sea, say Atlantis or whatever, sharks, whatever it is, or you like reading about space, you like reading about space pilots, Star Trek as comic books, or Marvel comics. Don't just stick to that. Explore different things, and I think that's the whole point I'm trying to make in this video. So I hope that kind of makes sense. I hope I didn't drag it too long, but I hope I brought my point across to you, that it's very important to read a diverse amount of books from different genres. Don't just stick to one, but explore the more that you can. And especially in nonfiction, even though you may not like nonfiction, I think it's very important in general, kind of like a chore, you could say, to eventually read at least one nonfiction from different genres. So read one from philosophy, read one from poetry to like maybe sharpen your sense of culture, read one about art or aesthetics, read one about say science or healthcare, engineering, finances and economics. I definitely need to read some of those, because I'm very like dumb when it comes to finances and economics, and so on and so forth. Psychology books, a lot of people tend to really like psychology books. They're really good, so pursue those if you want, but do something in the nonfiction and fiction genre that brings a sense of diversity to you, and that will really bring you far as a reader. Thank you for coming this far into this video, and see you guys very soon. Bye.